today I brought this screw here to the review of the... Okay, one more time. Today I brought this screw here to this exclusive review of the VW ID.3 Neo, a whole facelift. And this screw here actually is from a disassembled ID.3, recently done together with a team of Volkswagen from the plant in Zwickau and a team of the public television station in Germany. There will be a big documentary coming up of the whole plant and the disassembly of this vehicle and supply chains and so on. Very interesting. But today in our YouTube review here on Autogefühl with Thomas, it's about the facelift of the ID.3 called ID.3 Neo. And the big question is, how good is it now? Return of physical buttons and so on, finally, after all these years. So they're trying to even out the mistakes they have done before with that vehicle. However, it was still successful. Can it still be successful now? And there's so much hype about the VW ID Polo now. But the question is, wait a minute, is this maybe the better choice in comparison to the new ID Polo and Cupra Raval and so on, because this one here has the bigger battery? We're going to find out and also talk about a little bit of the, the findings I had from this disassembly project. Everything of that now with Thomas in 4K, full screen, full length, Autogefühl. Let's go here with the ID.3 Neo, which has less black, more body color. This color here is called Norwegian Sea Blue, or Nordmeerblau in the German version then. And in the studio, it looked rather purple, I gotta say. But here outside with daylight, it looks less purple and more a little bit lighter bluish. And yeah, thanks for acknowledging that I try to dress accordingly to the car once again. One of my favorite hobbies. Always when we know the color. The light strip here is carried all the way through, so it has a little bit more styling like the new ID Polo, illuminated logo and matrix LED you get already from the style trim level. This is also the high style trim level. We'll check out if it has a frunk soon as well. Then the length here is 4.29 meters, 169 inches. So that's a little bit longer than the new ID Polo, which is a segment lower. Here, by the way, already real door handles like that. Good door closing sound. So that's solid build quality. This is essentially like the electric Golf, only that it was never called electric Golf and it never really looked that way. But can it now be more an electric Golf? We'll find out. Wheels 18 to 20 inch. These are the 19-inch wheels. And for more comfort, it's of course good to stick with the 19-inch wheels. As for the consumption, they are always 215 in the width, so that wouldn't actually change much. Let's check out if it has a frunk or not directly. There we go. So you know that the new ID Polo and the Cupra Raval, they do not have a frunk. The ID Cross and the Skoda Epic, the SUV brother of this new platform, they do have a frunk. This one here doesn't have a frunk either, but you see they don't waste space, so their frunk really doesn't fit. Just the wiper fluid here to fill up. And the difference is that this new platform is front-wheel drive. This platform here is still rear-wheel drive, and we have here the 231 horsepower version, 7 seconds in the acceleration figure. There will be a new updated performance version coming up of the ID.3. You will see this video here also at Autogefühl, and that one, I can already tell you so far, will be called VW ID.3 GTI. So the first time it will not be called GTX, which was confusing because these were meant to be all-wheel drive models, but it's not all-wheel drive. This one will always be rear-wheel drive. So then they call it GTI. Yeah, then GTI is usually front-wheel drive. I mean, you can argue about that pro and con definitely. In the rear also less black. You already saw it probably here at the side here, this last pillar. There's no wrap, no black or some more vehicle color. This has a more, let's say, clean look overall. Also in the rear, there's no black rear hatch or something. And the new badge, really ID.3 Neo. Yeah, then the question is, do you take the blue pill or the red pill? Today it's the blue pill, yeah. Gonna talk with Morpheus about this. Then here flipping the logo to open the trunk, soon more about the measurements and so on. And there's always, let's say, a very special feature with this one, because why would I take this one out? It's hidden like a little bit, have to just open that one here. So, because when you think about you want to use a bicycle carrier with this vehicle, this is really a little bit complicated, sorry about that. but I just want to show you that as authentic as possible. Yeah, Leah is already having a laugh, I hope you too. So now I'm taking out this drawbar here, and the question is, why would I do that, you know? And there is this big secret of the ID.3. Ta-da! That's cool, right? Just folding. I mean, wait a minute. So if I don't want the police to catch me, I just, you know... But the police won't like that, I gotta tell you that. And then you see here, this is then where you can actually attach this drawbar here. So that is actually no, there we go. So there we go. And then we have this drawbar attached, and then we can put a bicycle carrier on it for 75 kilograms. This is not meant for towing. Gotta say that. There we go. I really want to be as authentic as possible. That's why you are here on Autogefühl, live on tape with Thomas. And they also supply some gloves with that one. Interesting. Made in Hungary. Welcome back to Europe, by the way. So there we go. Yeah, I'll just store this for a second here, that we can talk about the batteries. Then let's continue further, because charging here, 11 kilowatt AC, DC charging up to 183 kilowatt, and then it's 29 minutes, 10 to 80% state of charge for the big battery, and 26 minutes for the small battery. It's of course not the best values. Batteries are 50 kilowatt LFP, then 58 kilowatt LFP. Scam is that these two batteries are the same. It's just basically a software restriction to have the lowest entry version. That doesn't make any sense to me, and yeah, as I said, that's just customer scam. If you go for the big battery, however, it's 79 kilowatt hours. That is an NMC, and this makes this car really also possible, like, to do long journeys. And this is also a big difference then to the ID Polo, I feel, because the ID Polo with 37 or 52 kilowatt hours, it's just small batteries, more like city character. And I feel, also when you talk about sustainability, some always argue, you know, you have to go for small batteries because they use less resources and so on. And that's true. I, however, always say that when you buy a vehicle, it should not only be like this secondary or third vehicle, because not everyone can afford multiple vehicles. And when you just buy an additional small city car, it's an additional car. With this one here, with the big battery, it can be one car for everything. You can drive in the city with this one easily. It has rear-wheel drive, the front wheels turn in a lot, so it has a very narrow turning circle. But at the same time, with this 79 kilowatt hour battery, you can take this one here on a holiday trip. And that's why I love this vehicle a little bit better than the new ID Polo or Cupra Raval and so on, because it just offers the bigger battery. Yet again, the prices are also higher. Have to see about the leasing rates. So towards the end of the review, we talk about the efficiency at different motorway speeds, real world range, and also the pricing, and also in comparison to these new small brothers. And some technology facts here. Drum brakes still in the rear. Why do they do that? Manufacturers claim that these brakes are hardly used because recuperation is being used, and then in the rear they would just collect rust, and the performance would also not be really needed because more braking power is in the front anyways. Yeah, that's the argument. However, I would still prefer disc brakes because it's less cost savings, it's more premium, and does give you more braking power just in case you would really need it. And what did we find out during this disassembly? Just a quick preview. I was surprised that actually a lot of the parts come from the near surrounding of the Zwickau plant in eastern Germany. It's a very interesting finding. Like, the bigger the part is, the closer it is actually to the factory, and more details to come up in this documentary very soon, and I will also link it to you as soon as it is online. Then important to know also about the suspension. This one can be optionally equipped with the DCC, the adaptive suspension. And it's also available here for the style trim, whereas with the ID Polo, you would need to go to the GTI to get that. And even more important to know in this context, so where this car is built in Zwickau in eastern Germany, a lot of these suppliers are directly there to make it also more sustainable. Basically, the bigger the part is from this vehicle, the closer the supplier sits in close proximity to this plant. That means if this plant should close, there's a discussion at this moment. You know, VW cost savings, they want to fire a lot of people, they want to close down 4 plants, even Audi Neckarsulm, for example, and the VW plant in Zwickau is also on the list for plant closure. If this plant would close where this car is being built, it would affect the whole region, and there were like thousands of jobs would be lost. Now to the interior, the key fob here, yeah, high gloss black, nothing special. Real door handles, appreciated, but the Polo also does have that. And yeah, door closing sound. This is like the Golf, maybe meanwhile better than the Golf, but sounds good, definitely. Inside of the doors, they've done a lot here. So soft touch here, it's a nice structure. Fabric insert here, soft for your elbow, and then the major change here. Major change. Here, the metal knurling on top of the window levers, classic window levers again, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and not 2 with the rear button. Really appreciated, good build quality, and here also standard how you control the side mirror. Inside of the door, this is hard plastic, but at least we have a fabric insert at the bottom part of it. Appreciate that as well. Completely new steering wheel, like the ID Polo design. Real buttons at the steering wheel with a nice feedback. You can hear that actually. It's a anvil-free material. There are softer ones out there, but it's very good. It's decent stitching on the inside. Real proper digital instruments in a nice size, not these small ones that are attached here. Fabric dashboard, also a little bit dampened underneath. And then the seats. There are base seats available with separated head restraints, at least in some markets. And then this is like one step further, integrated head restraint, sporty seat, then the fabric insert in the middle, microfiber on the outside. This here also the so-called Ergo Active seat with memory 1, 2, and some seat massage, electric control and everything. There is one advantage of that new ID Polo platform and the Cupra Raval and the Skoda Epic and the ID Cross, in comparison to ID.3 and the Cupra Born. The Cupra Born is the identical twin to this one here, to the ID.3. Here, the floor is a little bit higher. And in the Polo, it's a little bit lower. That means in the Polo, the feet are a little bit lower. Here, it's a little bit higher. That is one disadvantage. However, the seat itself is awesome. And to me, also a little bit better than the class or the segment below that. And so overall, you still have a nice, comfortable seating position. I really like it. The lower part, you can also here extend a little bit, and headroom here. Also some room left, 189/602. By the way, here the pedals, have you seen the pedals? It's not a new feature, but you have this pause play design, which is always a nice thing to have. Yes, and there is more to praise in the cockpit, but also some things to criticize. One thing will be coming in the trunk, because I have really literally made my hands bloody because of something that happens in the trunk. But here in the cockpit, good news. We have here fabric on the dashboards, also dampened underneath. If that recycling style material is really needed, that's on the other sheet of paper. But here, the leather red dashboard, that's really nice. And the metal galvanization here, the knurling still continues with the air vents. And then the real buttons or switches here, climate up and down, fan speed up and down, and we've been fighting for years to have them back actually together with you, and Volkswagen has listened. And that's a great sign actually, that they again listen to the customers. Infotainment system update, there's a new software also in there, and it's definitely way better than before. Yes, you also have some good functions like swiping down, and you have some some hotkeys like the retro design. The retro design here, for example, has then this Golf 1, Golf 2 styling. You can and swipe also to the modern menus. And here on the top part, again, you can easily deactivate blop, blop, blop. Then everything is deactivated as for the EU speed chime warning and the lane assist and the attention assist. So you can easily deactivate it. You could still change the climate unit here in the lower part with sliding or plus minus. But why would you when you can do it here in the lower part, right? Then digital instruments, soon another detailed look at that. This is already the retro gauge, where you can also switch it through. I'll soon show you a detailed version of that. Then here in the middle part, microfiber covering for the inductive charging pad on the left side here. This is here some ventilation. Then turning left and right for the volume with metal knurling as well. The cup holders are somewhat adaptive, but for some bottles it's either too large or then too small. So it's maybe not the best solution. Soft for your elbow as well. Then you can open it in a split view and there's a lot of space underneath. And 2 USB-C chargers are down there. And there's also a clever thing here with the cable. So when you have one USB-C cable in here, then you can connect it in the lower part, and then there's like here this one that you can close it, and it's still, you know, like not damaging the cable because it's like then here hidden underneath. So they also thought of that because yeah, you still might want to change, might want to charge with the cable. That's the thing. Here the driver POV, very cool with the real buttons and steering, and it really sounds good. Clack, clack, clack. And then the digital instruments, again, really nice full size. And you can also change the view. And also these special retro gauges. Right side is then like a power meter. Left side, the speed. And this, yeah, 90s clock then in the top part. So yeah, we really appreciate that. There's a nice Apple CarPlay integration, but it comes with a but. And we're going to say, here, you see that? The same problem we had in the Cupra Raval, so it seems to be imminent to this new VW Cupra and so on software here. That flashing is not from the camera. It's always like a very quick black screen and then returns. And it seems to be connected to Apple CarPlay connection, which is also sometimes not that reliable. So, gotta fix that software. Rear seats, hard pack inside of the door in the rear, but we have the galvanized window lever also in the rear at least, and some nice fabric inserts. Then the seats are also nice with the fabric in the middle, microfiber insert, leatherette in the middle. Then we have the ISOFIX and also these galvanizations here at the rear climate vents, and they are also manual. Appreciate 2 USB-C chargers. Then headroom is close, gotta say, with one A9632, barely fits or closely fits. Legroom is of course then better if you compare to the ID Polo. This is the longer car, so you have some more legroom here. However, you see the platform, battery in the bottom, the feet are relatively higher already, and the bench is also falling downwards. Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's not the ideal position here for tall people, but more space than with the new smaller brothers there. Trunk or boot here, yeah, once again you can see all the way vehicle color now. I think it's actually more beautiful now in comparison to the previous non-facelift version. 385 liters, this one still fits vertically underneath. So liter figure, it's actually less than in the Polo. Here a meter or 40 inches in the width. The normal length is 31 inches, 80 centimeters. And now it gets even more interesting. So first of all, you can probably see, I can remove this cover here on top. There we go. So here, this lower part, you can fold it up like this, and then you can store this like that. So charging cable, because we have no trunk. And this one is also new. It's now V2L capable. So that means you can actually supply some devices, you know, from the outside. You can put this in then to the side, and then have a hair dryer, coffee machine, and so on. So why not? If you don't store anything here underneath, then you're also flexible to put this one lower in a lower stage. But here, this doesn't fit here in the side, so you have to do it like this. And yeah, it's not the real super practical solution. So you can also put it in the lower position. That would also work. However, you can also put this one out completely. And then underneath here, there's a lot of dampening here, and there's even more little space in the lower part. So the height then here to this top part, using it a little bit more, would be 30 inches or 80 centimeters. And then to fold the seats, grabbing over here, ski edge is also available like this. Of course, we can also measure that here for you, and that is then in total length 60 inches or 1 meter 53. And if you want to load things through, of course, you can put the trunk cover in again. And you know, I do not swear in public and will not do it now, although I would really like to, but I will cover the S and F words definitely. Of course, also when the kids are watching. Because here the combination of that, you get stuck here basically when pulling this one out, and whoever designed this here, there is a very sharp edge here inside where you grab in with your fingers, like here. And look at that. Now my fingers are destroyed, and this is not so funny. It's also, yeah, it kind of hurts. So whoever designed this one with the sharp edge in that way can go F sport mode. So that was 50 to 130 kilometers an hour with the 231 horsepower version here in the ID.3 Neo style. 7 seconds is the acceleration figure 0 to 100, and yeah, I think it's enough. Doesn't need to be much more performance, and it's cool that you have the rear-wheel drive boost. That is always fun to drive. 130 kilometers an hour, 80 miles an hour. Could be more silent, right? We don't have any insulation, like no acoustic windows here. At that price point, that would be nice. Gotta say that honestly. Lane change at here 130, 80 miles an hour. It's nice. The DCC is doing a great job. Here in the sport mode, it's also a little bit stiffer, giving us more feedback then. And so it's fun to drive, definitely. You also have the combination here, DCC with the progressive steering. That means I don't have to steer a lot. Here in the D mode, I have more recuperation when I'm in the comfort sport mode. So here, when I would go then to the comfort mode, we have to be careful, because then it just goes a little bit further, decrease the recuperation. In the comfort or in the normal mode or something like that, eco mode, individual mode, you can also set, then you can actually control what you want to do, and you don't have to have high recuperation. So in the D mode, it really depends on the set driving mode. The other possibility is the B mode. Then you have strong recuperation. You can also set 2 levels, to get a stronger level in the infotainment system. And then it also reduces, that's new, until 0. So one pedal driving is now actually possible. That's also good to know, definitely. And yeah, once again, direct steering, crisp, and the suspension is doing a great job. In the individual mode, for example, you can also route it to the most comfortable setting. Also good to have here the 19-inch wheels. They also deliver us more comfort. And you can also set it to more sport, like the sport is setting. So set up your individual driving mode. Yeah, why not doing it like that? And I always like to have a little more feedback from the steering, but make it most comfortable from the suspension setting. Travel Assist has also been updated, so I set it here also with a nice clicking sound with real buttons on the steering wheel. And here the lane is being kept in a quite smooth way. It also now reacts to traffic lights, for example, so this has all been enhanced. And if we find some space, we can also actually do a semi-autonomous lane change, and let's also see how it reacts in here in the traffic, because that is something, sometimes they are not really smooth, these systems, but here so far, also when you now accelerate, yeah, it's, I mean, swift, but not too quick actually, so that's actually fine. And then let's see if we can now induce this semi-autonomous lane change. There we go. That is nicely done. Pretty cool. So I like that, how they tuned the Travel Assist 3.0, you can say. Yeah, a little bit better wind insulation at higher speeds. That would be nice here at 130 kilometers an hour, 80 miles an hour. Here at 100, that's fine. 110 or something, that's also totally fine. And you have a nice traveling feeling, you know, also when you have some waves in the road here, German Autobahn, this is evened out very well by the DCC. And even when you are in the comfort setting, then it's still sporty enough so that the car is not shaking majorly or something, you know. So yeah, that's also fine with me. And difference to the ID Polo is you do feel it's a little bit longer vehicle, it's a little bit more settled on the road. I feel it also gives you more comfort. Here, of course, because of the DCC especially, you can also have that in the non-GTI version. With the Polo, you would need to go to the GTI to get the DCC, and I would try to always pick the DCC for best comfort, especially if you do some long-term driving. but still 130 kilometers an hour comfort-wise is still fine, also because of these nice seats. And I think we could very well imagine going on a holiday trip with this one here now. And that is possible when you have the bigger battery here in comparison to the Polo, where it's just a little bit limited. Yet at the same time, rear-wheel drive, also fun to drive in the city. The wheels turn in quite a lot, so it's still fun to drive this car and also suitable for city driving here with the ID.3 Neo. Basically, it ticks all the boxes. It feels kind of Golf-alike. Somehow I have the feeling that now with the update, the DCC setup is even a little bit more comfortable. Yeah, maybe I'm not exactly sure, but I feel so. And others have also confirmed it to me. So that could really be a thing that they pay attention to even more comfort. Yeah, when there's some beeping sounds, I have my personal assistant to deactivate lane keeping assist or something, or EU speed chime law thing, and you can also easily deactivate that then. Now to our real-world range test and efficiency, and also since we just did it with the Cupra Raval, which is identical to the ID Polo in the efficiency and so on, we can also compare that. So we had the real-world range test here now with the ID.3 style, rear-wheel drive, 231 horsepower, 79 kilowatt-hour battery at about 22 degrees Celsius, so 72 degrees Fahrenheit. At 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, we are at 15.5 kilowatt-hours in 1 kilometers, 4 miles per kilowatt-hour rear-wheel range, 510 kilometers or 320 miles. Then at 130 kilometers an hour, 80 miles an hour, at about 21 kilowatt-hours on 1 kilometers, 3 miles per kilowatt-hour, and a rear-wheel range of 380 kilometers or 240 miles. That's decent. Could be better. We have competitors that are better. That, I mean, for example, Mercedes CLA is more efficient, but it's also then again more expensive, at least full respect and so on. But the interesting part is that, especially like at 130 kilometers an hour, you can drive almost 400 kilometers, 250 miles. That's okay. You can live with that. Yes, it could recharge quicker. They should have done something about quicker recharging with the vehicle, definitely. But it is, if you compare an ID Polo or Cupra Raval, at 100 kilometers an hour is 140 kilometers further, and at 130 kilometers an hour it goes 100 kilometers or 60 miles further. And that can be quite decisive when you do some, let's say, mid-range stuff, and I do these frequent, like in 2 hours, 2.5 hours in one direction and so on. And if you then have like 100, 150 kilometers surplus range, that can be a deciding factor indeed. Or what do you think? Pricing starts 34,000 euros with the smallest LFP battery. If you go for the big battery, then you're already at about 45,000 euros. And that is actually comparable to a fully spec'd ID Polo or Cupra Raval. That's actually also crazy. However, this one, when you are here, big battery, style, trim level, and some options, you can also spec it to more than 50,000 euros. Full spec with all options. This vehicle is not all options, but with all options, you can even spec it to 57,000 euros. That's of course, kind of crazy in the list price. However, at least so far, they have been serving customers very well with a lot of good dealing offers. And VW has a lot of dealer power, especially in Germany, for example. A lot of big dealer groups, and then they can offer good leasing things, because the list price might seem very, very high, but then still a lot of companies go for them and get like 10 ID.3s for a nice leasing rate or something. So this always is then relative to, for example, the new Chinese competitors, which always offer great the great list prices, but then maybe the leasing offers are different. So we have to look into the details. But definitely the thing is, when you think about that, the ID Polo and the Cupra Raval are not really cheap in the high spec, you might as well also go that, hey, I can get a bigger battery here and have also a car for long journeys. So ID Polo or ID.3, I like with the ID.3 that you have rear-wheel drive, that you get the DCC, the adaptive suspension, not only in the performance trims, but also then here just in a, let's say, normal higher trim. And it just feels a segment higher, a little bit more sophisticated. Of course, the difference are not that large anymore overall, because they also use some same styling parts and interior user interface concept and so on. So they come close, have their pros and cons, but I feel this a little bit more sophisticated ride here, more comfortable, and also that you can go for this larger battery, that you can also do the longer journeys, and that's why my choice would still be with the ID.3 here in the big battery version. What do you think? Tell me in the comments. And now check out the comparison to the ID Polo or the Cupra Raval.